Let's go through the first wave of seeing how that works because I've invested resources into that before and it's not panned out. So I want to make sure before I invest again that hey, this is a real deal. This is going to be really good.
So I know your weight room is really one of the cutting edge weight rooms at a high school level, especially probably in the country. From what I've seen, I haven't had an opportunity to visit personally yet, but the images and things that my brother had shown me. And so, but even with some of the advancements that you have from an asset like a rack standpoint, for example, you're still doing a lot of things manually from a tracking standpoint because you don't have the time to. If things mess up, that's a waste of a day for an athlete. So, but can you talk a little bit about how you guys came about in terms of developing the facility that you guys did? I think because you're kind of the envy of if other high school strength coaches could see the facilities you guys have, they'd be quite envious. So, but talk a little about how that came about and how long you've had the facility you have.
Sure. I'm gonna give a lot of credit to other people. I didn't design our facility, so it was they kind of did things a little differently. They built their facility, they had their vision, then they said we're going to go hire the person to implement our vision. There were some things I would have done differently, not to complain about my facility, but of course, every coach has his own style, the way you like to coach, the things you like, but it's really hard for me to complain. But there was a vision from our board of trustees, from our community of we want a comprehensive wellness program. We want a program that where every athlete trains. It's not sport specific. It's very general. We're a very, very large as far as our emphasis on multi-sport participation at my school. So that was just a vision that they had. Well, how do we make this happen? 6,000 square foot weight room and a 40 by 40 indoor turf field. There's a lot of benefits to having that. Whether it's, practice. We're in the South, so of course you get the heat index where you have to go inside, so we don't lose practice time. We don't have to go in a gym. We can still hit on the turf and do what we need to do there. And it was really the vision of our school and our board of trustees and our community is saying, hey, this is important, and they want to go beyond just the athlete and the overall wellness of every student that goes to Battleground. So I was kind of brought in to be the facilitator of that. That's kind of how it came around. So, yeah.
So, can you talk a little bit about, I guess, your training philosophy as it relates? Because you're primarily training 15 to 18-year-old kids, and I'm assuming a lot of them that come into high school level when they're 15 probably haven't lifted a lot. And those that have probably haven't been on a structured program. They might have periodization and there's some sort of science to it. So when you have a kid come into your program, how do you take them from that very inexperienced athlete from a weight room standpoint, help them to educate themselves or for you to educate them on proper techniques and then work them into something that is much more advanced, obviously, by the time they're junior or senior.
Sure. And, we're a big tier system school as far as what we do. We block everyone into five different training programs as far as their different blocks. There's also training programs in that, so we've got, Wildcat, White, Gray, Gold, and Blue, which are our developmental levels. And then in between that, we've got, are you a developmental 1 guy who's probably a freshman, or are you a developmental 2 guy, advanced developmental, where you're probably kind of a role player. You're probably not playing a lot on the court or on the field right now, but you get in a little bit. And then still mainly a JV player, and then we got our varsity kids, so we block them into those. But for us, it's just all of our progressions are built into their different blocks. So you may start with your first squat may be some type of goblet squat. Going back into Wildcat is going to be a bodyweight squat. Can you do that first? So it's all about progressions and regressions for us. So we try to have I think Mike Boyle talks a lot about this. If you've got your standard exercise and you've got 3 regressions back and 3 progressions forward. So that's kind of how we do all of our progressions right there. And there are some kids that may be on a blue block that don't do that type of squat. So we just kind of slow roast them up. I talk about slow cooking the guy all the time. And we progress them when they do it well and they do it fast, then we add the load because everything comes down. I know Brian Mann talks a lot about this, about technique, velocity, load. And that's kind of our philosophy. When you do that well and your patterns are well or move well, you do all the things we want you to do and you can move fast, then we can start to add a little load to it. Once you can do it with a little more load, then we may go to a more complex exercise for you. But you're not going to move into anything that you're not ready for. We're not rushing anything. If you can't, our Wildcat guys, they don't come out of Wildcat until they can move their own body weight. So, and that's disappointing for some guys. But you know, our workouts are challenging enough. If you asked our Wildcat guys right now, who are block zero in Joe's terminology, they would not tell you that they're not getting worked every day. So when they can move their own body weight, they'll move into our white program. They're starting to learn the techniques of the lifts in the Wildcat program as well. But we're just trying to establish that great base and great movement pattern with them, movement efficiency, and then from there, you know, move well and then move fast. So.
Brian was talking to me a little bit while you were talking. We have a couple of questions from some of the viewers. One of the questions was around just how long you've been at the high school level, and you talked about the college experience that you had, and you were at quite a few schools. How long have you been at the high school?
I have been 17 years now. This is my 17th year, so long time. I started when I was 18, so really? I got hurt in college my freshman year, and the next day I started driving home and coaching. So yeah, I got started really young. So I've been around for a little while now, and it's been fun, man. It's like I said, I put that picture up. It was from like 2000. I'm like, man, that was 15 years ago. I look like a kid, you know. So it's been a good, fun, rewarding. You know, it doesn't feel like 17 years.
And given the college experience that you had, not that many years at the high school level, what is it about the high school level that that really that brings out your passion? I know when we were talking earlier, I could tell you're extremely passionate about the impact that you're able to make with athletes at this age. So talk a little bit about why you're still in high school.
Yeah, you know, I was talking about this the other day. I mean, you know, if I worked with college guys or pro guys and our guys that go off to college and play or whatever, a lot of NFL guys talk about man, they look back at high school and like, man, I love Friday Night Lights, you know, just Friday nights and the high school kid in general. There's so many reasons that I just, one, I always like school. My wife jokes I'm a professional student, so I've got 4 degrees. I want to go back and get my doctorate, and she's like, no way. You're just a professional student. You got to stop. So
I was noticing all your tags and teaching you about that when you walked up. They're going to be down to your knees at some point.
So, but I love school. I just did. I loved being at school. I loved everything about it. I loved that environment. I had a great high school experience. I had a great coach who was a great mentor for me. And, really probably the guys that coached me, and this is why I wanted to be at that level, they had such an impact on me. And I came from kind of a tough upbringing, and I had guys who loved and cared about me outside of just me playing a sport. And I'm probably doing things that I shouldn't be doing with the background that I had. And for them to be able to take the time and spend that time with me and make sure that I was always on the right path and doing the right things, and just knowing how much of an influence they have been on me, being able to stay at the high school level and say, hey, I want to be that type of influence on someone else. I just think it matters. You can make a real difference. They're at a very impressionable age. So yeah, it's extremely, I've never been anything that's more rewarding than working with a high school kid.
I can tell you're extremely passionate about it. And I think, that's important. You'll see coaches that are in the business for the wrong reason, right? No and doubt. I can tell that you're in it for the right reason. And to have that impact on somebody, that should be. I'm assuming that's very fulfilling on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I mean, to hit on that, like, I think every coach goes through that little bit of time. Maybe when you first get started, or you get young and you think it's about you and it's about winning championships and does anyone know who I am, or I want to be the guy speaking one day. And I just found that, like, the more that what I did, it didn't take me very long because I just have a passion for being around kids, but I was a kid when I started. So, the more it's about someone else, the more successful you'll be, because then the true passion, and you'll put more work into it it doesn't feel like work, so you will put a tremendous amount of work and effort into it, and you've got no choice but to be successful if you do that. If it's all about someone else, I tell our kids this all the time, because we have this concept of BGA of, is it a we thing or is it a me thing? I stole that from my friend Gary Schofield. He said that is that a we measure, or or a me measure? And we talk about that a lot. And when it's about we tend to be very successful there. When people get selfish, we tend to not be as successful as the years we have. So I've just found that if it's about other people, then you tend to do very well and you tend to be successful. So not that that's a measure of it. I think it's just part of it. So.
That's great philosophy. I had one more question for you, and then we'll let you go. Talking about the doing things the right way, and I think oftentimes I'm sure you've run into experiences where you've had coaches that want you to move their player along faster than you feel is right, or under normal circumstances. So how have you dealt with that type of experience, which I'm sure it's it's pretty prevalent at the high school level as much as it is at any other level.
Yeah, I one way I deal with it is I tell our coaches, and especially where we're at, my head coach and I had this conversation the other day. I said, hey, if he's playing as a freshman or sophomore for us, probably not very good right now. So I'm in a situation where I don't answer to our sport coaches as far as how I train our kids. That doesn't mean I don't communicate with them regularly. I don't ever want them to think I have an opinion of your opinion doesn't matter. So I have great relationships with our coaches. We coordinate closely, but in the end, all training decisions are mine. And because that's my field, that's what I do. And we have conversations about that, about how much time do you spend watching film every week? Well, that's how much time I spend, maybe more than that, doing what I'm doing. So just, it becomes a trust factor. Do you trust me? And I think that doesn't happen overnight. So it didn't happen overnight. When I first came in at Battleground 4 years ago, it took some time for people to trust me. Our baseball coach swore up and down he wasn't going to have his kids work with me. He was going to, our AD saying, no, everybody's going to be on this program. We're all going to do it. And he swore up and down. We met for 10 minutes. And he was like, wow, you know your stuff. We're good, and we're great friends today. He's not even in our school anymore. We still keep up with each other. So he jokes about, I swore up and down I was never going to let you work with my kids. And, I think if you just work to build that rapport and they trust you and they know, once again, it goes down to them knowing that you care as much about their sport as they do. And you can't just sell that. You've got to believe that, and you've got to care, because people can see through that. And once they know, wow, you really care about me being successful, you care about our kids being successful, it's just hard for them not to get on board. But yeah, I think you've got to educate. You've got to explain this is why we progress the way we progress, and not just say I'm right and you're wrong. And I just don't think that gets you very far. So yeah, I'm willing to sit down. We hire a new coach. We sit down and meet. First thing we do, and I explain why we're doing what we're doing, why it's beneficial, why it's the right way to do it with a high school kid. And I'll give specific examples of everyone's had the kid who could bench press 315 pounds and couldn't play a lick at any sport. So I've also had the kid who could bench press 155 pounds, and that guy was all-state. So we're a piece of the puzzle. So we try not to get it all twisted up and think that number in the weight room's the end all. So let us if it's a bad pattern, it's bad. It doesn't matter how much weight he's moving. We're not creating athleticism. We're not going to get the transfer that we want to get on the field. So I'll talk a lot to them about, let's do the things that we need to do for efficiency and to get transfer. So.
Brett, I could talk to you all day. Every time you bring up something, I think of another question I want to ask you, but my producer brother here is telling me we got to cut it off. So I've taken up a lot of your time, but I thank you so much for coming by. It was a pleasure talking to you. Fred Eaves at Battleground Academy in Franklin, Tennessee, and we're actually going to hopefully come in and listen to your presentation tomorrow. So appreciate it. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.